Hi everybody, it's good to be here again. Good to see old friends and faces. And we're going to be talking today about open standards. And I think many of you have heard a lot of things about SOSA already. This presentation is going to be focused on what SOSA is. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it got there, where it came from, who's contributing to it, and what does it really mean for the industry. What does it mean relative to the VITA organization and to a lot of your folks here? Back in May of 2013, I believe it was, DoD issued this open standards architecture mandate. They said from now on, we're going to be looking for suppliers of military defense equipment to follow open standards. And you have to do it whenever possible, with very few exceptions. So that took place in 2013. In January of last year, a very significant memo came out called the TriService Memo. I think many of you have read it. I'll go through it quickly. It's a joint memo from the three different services, the Secretaries of the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. And it's to the acquisition executives, the procurement officers in the government, as to how they should behave going forward on modular open systems architecture. It means you really need to have this as a war-fighting imperative. It lists a bunch of standards that had been developed since the 2013 announcement by each of the services, and then lately, most recently, the SOSA initiative itself. It specifically calls that out. So what it says is you must use these modular open standard architecture principles in doing your acquisitions. And we're seeing that really take hold. So let's go a little bit more at what is the objective. What was the statement of what is an open system architecture? First of all, they want to reduce costs by enhancing competition. They want to make technology refresh a lot easier. They want to inspire innovation, and that means to make it economically feasible for companies to find a way to do that and to make money in the process. Cost savings, they really want to change the way architecture is so that it's much more modular and common across multiple vendors, especially between boards of the same size, same type, same function between different vendors, to have them interchangeable. So those are the big initiatives, the big objectives of the MOSA initiative. And so each of the three services took those objectives and said, okay, how are we going to do this? How is the Army going to do it? How is the Air Force going to do it? So those directives were interpreted by each of the three services with different standards. The Navy developed the host and hardware open system technology. They defined three different tiers of hardware that are specifically called out with very good definitions of each. The Army came up with CMOS, okay, which is a modular open system architecture for C4ISR and electronic warfare. And these standards embrace the Victory, the MORA, modern open radio architecture, the Open VPX, and so forth, many other standards that were incorporated there. And the Air Force came out with OMS, Open Mission Systems. They developed several of their own standards, including FACE. Notably, they embraced the VITA 49 and Open VPX. But what happened is each of those different organizations said, we don't really need three different standards. We really want to do it as one initiative. And so thereby came the SOSA initiative and the SOSA Consortium. And this is where all three of the forces are joining together to come out with a common standard called SOSA, which you've been hearing about today, and you'll hear about before the end of the show many more times, I'm sure. So let's talk a little bit about what is SOSA. It's managed by the Open Group, which is a big, big standards organization. Very formal. They have a lot of rules. They have a lot of formalities that you have to go through. But it is then contributed to by the three forces to adopt these open standards specifically for C4 ISR. And a lot of the bottom bullets that you see here are completely consistent with the original government's open system architecture definition about reusability and repurposing and more rapid deployment of new systems. So let's see, what is SOSA? How's it made up? They recently reorganized, just recently. So now there's a steering committee that's advised by an advisory board. Under the steering committee are two working groups. There's the business working group and the technical working group. In addition, there's an architecture standing committee to make sure that both of those groups are complying with the architecture that's been defined for SOSA. And then a conformance standing group. This assures that there are conformance standards and tests that need to be passed for you to be able to claim that you are a SOSA compliant product or vendor. So this is kind of the way the organization looks. If we take a look at the business working group, what it's designed to do is to develop business practices, standards, policies, procedures for doing acquisition. The business model helps characterize the business model for people to be able to participate in government programs and make money and be successful in doing that. The outreach subcommittee, and by the way, SC stands for subcommittee, okay, we'll call it a marketing group. You can't say marketing, but you can say outreach. And so we have Valerie Andrews here today. She is in charge of the SOSA Outreach Committee, all right? And we also have Gina Peter from Pentek, who's also a member of that committee as well. Going over to the technical working group, which is where a lot of you folks will play, it has been kind of organized in these following subgroups. But the whole idea is to develop the SOSA standard. It's not really called a specification, it's called a SOSA standard that really is the technical specifications of SOSA, and a reference design, which is a system that will be used to demonstrate capabilities. And within the technical working group, there are several subcommittees. The hardware subcommittee, the electrical mechanical subcommittee, the intermodule interaction subcommittee, and if you can say that, you're probably qualified to go in there. That's hard to say. Then there's the software environment subcommittee, which is another big challenge, as we just heard. There's a lot of software that needs still to be defined. The hardware is come along pretty well, but that's not all. Data model subcommittee. How do you format the data packets and high-speed streaming data that's going between different parts of the system? Sensor management. How do you manage a sensor element that might be on a rotating turret on board of a ship, for example? Standards alignment is very important because now that's part of that standards steering subcommittee that we talked about in the very beginning, the standards group. Security, how do you address security? And then there are some new groups, the enhancements subcommittee and then the airworthiness subcommittee. These are still new, they're being formed, and so they're shown in gray here. But you can see there's a lot of structure, a lot of organization, and believe it or not, this is actually a little bit easier to understand than what it was organized in a previous organization. If you take a look who is participating in SOSA, here in the green you see the sponsor level. And of course these are all of the government, the DoD organizations that are participating actively in the SOSA organization. And then we have the principal level. These would be kind of the prime subcontractors that would be delivering complete systems to the government. And you see a lot of folks you probably recognize. And now you have the associate level, look at all those companies. All of these companies are members in SOSA. They've signed up to be part of it. And you can see a lot of folks in this room. You can see a lot of companies that you know, each of them contributing their own bit, their own part to what the technology requirements are for SOSA. So the mandate, if you want, of SOSA is to make everything modular. That's one of the first things. And we talked about modularity before, so that you can really encapsulate things to define what a module does, what it is, and how it works. But it also has to work with other modules, so that has to be defined as well. It has to be open, modular and open. So it's based on widely published technical specifications, and the specification refinement that's done within SOSA has to be done by consensus by all of the members that we looked at before. And you have to be able to prove that you are conformant with the SOSA specification in a formal process, not just say, well, this is I did it, trust me. It will have to be tested and validated. And by the way, the word compliance, it really isn't used. Conformance is the right term, but a lot of us think of it as compliance. There's a gray box concept that was defined in the open system architecture, and the modules are really defined according to this gray box concept. What is it? First of all, it defines what is in the box. What does it do? And then the interfaces between the boxes. So the function of the box and the interfaces, that's the simplest concept that they want to get across for a gray box. What doesn't it do? It doesn't define how it performs the function inside. And it doesn't define intellectual property. Why is that important? It means that vendors can invest in the intellectual property to produce a given function that's viewable from its interaction from the outside, but you are protected from that intellectual property on the inside. So that's kind of the gray box concept. SOSA really, and this is the hardware part of it, really embraces a lot of things. Some of the things we've heard about today: plug-in card profiles, networking, backplanes, chassis management, power, cooling, maintenance, compatibility alignment. All of these things are part of this hardware standard. So it's very encompassing from the whole chassis and through even sub-systems like sensors that might be up in an antenna mast. So it's really encompassing all of the different hardware pieces right down to the different buses and the different types of interconnects that you can have between the modules. How does Vita play in SOSA? Well, a big way, a very big way. Let's see. So what SOSA does is it basically defines open standards that are developed around, from everybody around the world, based on what people think should work. And the SOSA really says use a standard from Vita to, define exactly what our boards should do. Take profiles whenever possible of existing Vita standards and use those to get the job done. But some of the rules in SOSA are only recommendations. In other words, what SOSA is doing is it's adapting the Vita specifications to its own purpose, okay? Defining things that might have been allowed, but now SOSA says this is how you will do it. And some of the rules in SOSA are more restrictive. So, for example, the slot profiles in Vita 61, of which there are many, many, SOSA is only picking a handful of slot profiles to use and trying to make all the systems use those few handful of slot profiles. We'll look at those in a minute. In the other case, sometimes SOSA will adopt a standard from, let's say, Host, which itself has a Vita 4611, platform management specification, And they say, well, that host really did a good job of using VITA 4611, so we're going to take that specification and we're going to use that for SOSA. And there will be things that SOSA doesn't find in its charter. And so what you'll have to do is convince VITA perhaps to add a new standard, work with VITA, and then have it be adopted in SOSA. These are some of the profiles that are used. These are 3U profiles that are used, slot profiles, plug-in cards. These are some 6U plug-in cards that are used. And there's so much detail here, we don't have time to go in. But the other thing that's really nice is that a lot of these backplane features that VITA 66 and VITA 67 have offered has been for the backplane RF I/O, backplane optical I/O, which are being embraced, certain ones in the SOSA standard. And there's some new ones that are coming out that now make those interconnections much more powerful, especially for handling both RF signals, where you can have, in this case, we have 8 backplane connections for RF connections, for RF signals. And then you have a new one that's coming out that's really kind of exciting. Take a look at this. This is part of a VITA 67.3D, where you have 2 half-width inserts, each of which has 10 RF coaxial connectors and an MT ferrule for up to 24 lanes of optical fibers, all on the backplane. Really nice, really exciting. The other thing is that SOSA defines messaging, and that gets into some of the data structures for sending wideband data streams, for sending digital samples, for doing control functions, signal layer control, and a lot of the VITA 49.2 has been adopted for the SOSA standard. One other point is that because SOSA Consortium only can have US members, VITA is a worldwide membership organization. Some things can be done within SOSA that are sensitive, which then can be conveyed, the function of what's needed, not why it's needed, can be conveyed to SOSA, where the standard can be developed to be supporting the function that was identified within the SOSA requirement. So we're going to have, on Wednesday, we're going to have an InterOperability demo, and these are some of the companies that are going to be participating in that demo. They're going to be there. But one of the things that we have to stress is that we cannot claim yet to be SOSA conformant, because we don't have the standard yet, and we don't have the conformance testing yet to that standard. So all we can say is that this product has been developed in alignment with SOSA. The benefits we've talked about, the government benefits are many, the industry benefits are many as well. So it's a win-win for the government and for the industry. There's a technical draft, Snapshot 2, that's out right now. There's going to be new work that'll be done. Released in April will be Snapshot 3. Takeaways: the open architecture ecosystem is available now. It's really ready to go. You can buy products that are ready to go into this type of SOSA-aligned structure and into these systems. The consensus that we talked about to build in the business and working groups, the tri-services, all working forward, moving forward together. That demonstration on Wednesday is going to be a big event. The products of SOSA are technical standards. Snapshot 3 should be released in April 2020. Then we'll have something to conform to. I keep saying comply to, okay? And more importantly, or most importantly, the government is now acquiring products. They're in programs. Get involved if you want to. Contact the open group. There's the open group website domain. Now I have 10 seconds left for questions.